happiness topic comes up a lot. You know, are you happy? Oh, like how truly happy? I'm like, I'm not very happy. The reason I fly private or, you know, long haul first class is because it does bring a comfort to your life, and it makes my life easier, and it makes it easier for me to do the bigger things and the harder things that I want. I was just disgusted. by the UK government. NFTs are a scam. 99.9% NFTs are a scam.
What are the things that they should action in their life right now to give them the best chance of getting to 100, from 100 to 1 million, so that they can go and achieve the lifestyle that you've got?
Liquid wealth, I'd say I'm 70% cash at the moment. But if you know, Bitcoin goes down to 14, 15,000, I'm deploying $5 million.
So that together we have clarity, direction, and success way beyond what we ever previously thought possible. Here's your host, Frankie Lee.
First things first, guys, before we get started with this podcast, do me a solid favor and subscribe to this on whatever platform you're listening to it right now. Whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I'd appreciate if you just hit that subscribe button, and it lets me know that the content that I'm putting out for you guys is hitting your ears at the right time. Much love. This podcast is sponsored by ContentRemoval.com. So whether you're looking to remove any images, videos, search results, fake Instagram accounts, get in touch with us at ContentRemoval.com. Welcome back to the Frankie Lee podcast. Today, guys, we have the legend himself, Iman Gadzhi. He's on the podcast today, and he's done some epic things in all forms. Agency work. He's got an e-com brand. He's done everything, haven't you, mate? You've done everything. So yeah, I think that
bits and bobs.
A lot of bits and bobs in. But honestly, we've just come out the cigar lounge. Don't worry, I've not been on the old cigars myself. But mate, you're in London. How long are you in London for?
Only 5-6 days. 5-6 days,
yeah. 5-6 days. But mate, I suppose the best place for us to start with your journey is kind of like, obviously I've seen a lot of your videos and all that throughout my life, but you came from a background where you didn't have a lot of money, but you were in an extremely wealthy area. Mm-hmm. So it's like you wanted more for yourself, and you saw all this abundance around you, but you didn't quite have that in your own life. Was that something that genuinely gave you a real good kick to get started and push forward? Or
here's the thing, I don't think it's necessarily gave me a kick or gave me motivation. It just normalized it. And I think that's the biggest thing with people. It's not that they're not doing the things to receive wealth. It's that they're generally not, if they had wealth come to them, they would repel it because they don't feel deserving of it. Right. And I think it's because basically the big advantage that I had, as I said, I had a funny situation where, you know, my mom, married my stepdad. And, you know, it was a funny situation where I was going to private school, but then that's basically all my stepdad did for us. And then he got some tax benefits and what yada yada, you know, whole story there. But I would come home and, you know, even like the last 4 years I was in my house, we had no warm water, no heating because he wouldn't pay for it. And then when he found out I was starting a business, he cut off the Wi-Fi. And that's actually why even to this day, I'm still, you know, 3?
Yeah. Like, but I'm on 3 too. And I watched you say that. I watched you say this in another podcast as well, like about you know, only roadmen have 3.
Yeah, like 3 doesn't exactly have the best coverage, right? It's definitely not the most ideal, but you know, they had some pretty decent plans, and that's why it's because, you know, they had back in 2015 they had a hotspot plan where, like, you know, you had a limited hotspot for like £25 a month. So that's basically how I built my business. So as I said, I had this weird the juxtaposition of like not having any money, and, you know, me and my mom being on government benefits. We bounced between that, or she was working at Harrods, temporary job, or Chelsea Westminster Hospital. So, you know, it was a very weird childhood because I said I had that drive and the fire inside me, but then I also had a lot of wealth around me. And I think people think, oh, the wealth was what motivated me. No, not at all. It's the wealth normalized it. Because people have this idea about wealthy people that
there's a gap between it.
Yeah, most people think that wealthy people are very smart. I mean, yes, to a point, but it's not necessarily they're very smart. It's just like, I mean, look, I'll be honest, you see some pretty stupid people who end up being ridiculously rich, and you almost sit there and you ask yourself and you wonder why. And a lot of times it's just because they're feel deserving of it for whatever reason. Yeah. Right. So as I said, growing up, I would never look at a sports car. I would never look at the wealthy things around and think, oh, I'm not deserving of it. I'm like, yeah, that'll be my reality very soon. And it's just, you know, all I need is a bit of time. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the biggest disadvantage that, you know, we were even talking about certain middle-class families. Yeah. It's this weird purgatory where, like, you have enough that you don't have any, fire under your ass, but it's also you don't have anything to really
to gauge against.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Whereas at least, when you come from a lower income household, at least you actually have that like fire, that spark.
Yeah.
So I kind of had the best of both worlds, and I'd say that was my biggest advantage.
I kind of believe now, from judging from what I've been through in my own life, is the fact of like, because I was in a middle class family, it was harder because it was so comfortable. Like they've got the properties, they've got this, they've got that, a few properties and all that stuff. But if you look at families where, like you say, where they've got no money, there's a hell of a lot of drive there. But the good thing that wealthy families have, which is like they teach their kids about money and about work ethic and stuff at a lot of levels that other people don't understand. Like, I know you were a big, you educate yourself with a lot of books, because I remember you saying that you read books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and kind of they kind of made a pivot in your mind as well, right?
For sure. I started reading those books when I was 14, so I didn't necessarily have anyone to help me or mentor me or anything like that, but just those books were basically my my phantom mentors at the time.
Yeah. What were some of your key pivotal books that kind of helped you go from essentially $0 to 10 million, 15 million a year?
I'd say probably well, it's different because that's the issue. It's like the books to go from 0 to 50K a year, 100K a year, the books that you read then are slightly different to the books that you read at this stage of the journey.
Yeah.
So the initial sort of books are like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, this, that, and those are good books to read right now. But if at this stage I don't read those books and get anything from them, quite honestly. And then maybe if you're trying to go from 100K to $1 million a year, then there's great books like reality transurfing, for example, right? And those books are a little bit more meaty, but there's a lot more that you can kind of learn from there. So, it's in the same way. I don't necessarily believe that Joe Dispenza, because obviously we were talking about him, you'll be indulging in some of his work in just a few days. So his stuff, I don't know if it's necessarily the best place to start with, but once you get to a certain point, because, a lot of people kind of just, do this self-help masturbation where
it's just like wanking in the wind, basically.
And it's at the beginning, it's very simple. Just do it. Like, that's it, right? There's really not much else to it. And at the beginning, really all it is just discipline. Whereas once you get to a certain stage, then you need to understand your limiting beliefs, your mind, all that sort of stuff.
I think a lot of people don't understand that the faster they can address their shadows and the faster they can get over these certain things that have gone on in their life, that they carry, this baggage that they're carrying with them all the time, the faster they can move through that, the faster they can accentuate into the things that you're talking about. Because how much of your life was held back by, things that you hadn't cut off from your past, so to speak?
I'd say that probably affects me a little bit more now. Whereas, like, I always tell people, I think it's important for me to say this, like, my life right now, I wouldn't say is necessarily aspirational, right? Because this happiness topic comes up a lot. Are you happy? Oh, like, how truly happy? I'm not very happy, but that's also because I don't care. Like, I care about fulfillment. So everyone's optimizing for a different thing. I optimize for fulfillment. For me, fulfillment is the thing that I care about. And first of all, I think happiness is just, I can't
break down the difference for you between happiness and fulfillment.
So, okay, let's say, for example, when you're boxing, right? You're getting fucking punched in the face, like you're just getting beat down, and then you overcome it. In that moment, are you happy?
100%, because getting punched in the face is shit.
Yeah, so you're not happy, right?
Yeah.
But after, do you feel something, right?
Yeah.
Right, but that thing you didn't feel happiness after you felt fulfillment.
Yeah.
Right. So I chase fulfillment. That's what I'm optimizing for this period of my life. Whereas what people think is happiness is actually peace. So I think for me, there's 3 things you can kind of optimize for: fulfillment, peace, or joy. Fulfillment is doing something really hard, boxing, building a company, running a marathon. All right, that's fulfillment. Peace is moving to a farm, walking in the woods.
Yeah,
that's peace, right?
Yeah.
And that peace doesn't necessarily give you joy. Joy is, you're in Bali, you wake up with your friends, you get on the mopeds, you ride to a waterfall. That's like joy. That's like when you're in the moment and you're like, you feel this like little bubbly sensation, like you're a kid, right? So for me, those are 3 things that people are actually chasing. But then they kind of like encircle it all in happiness. And I don't know what happiness is. I just think it's a whole load of shit.
I'm understanding that happiness is kind of an illusion, because you can't be happy all the time. But one thing I want to ask you is, like, do you think these things conflict then? Because
100%.
Just to tell you, like, because the way I see it for me is like, peace to me is Australia, but fulfillment is the podcast, right? So if I want to grow my fulfillment, which is what I love to do, then I have to leave the peace, right? So is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, they are conflicting with each other, right? Because joy usually comes with adventure, right? Adventure, trying new things, like being, just that excitement factor. And joy kind of conflicts against peace, because peace is a calming energy, right? So those two conflict with each other. And then fulfillment, for me, I think people really get fulfillment when they're proud of themselves, right? And when they feel like they've accomplished something. But in order to accomplish something, usually you have to do something difficult, and something difficult doesn't bring you peace or joy in the moment. So the three are people just need to figure out what they want, right? And the whole happiness thing is, as I said, it's a whole load of shit. Like, it's figure out what you want from peace, joy, or fulfillment. And just understand that if you're optimizing for one, then it's in direct conflict with the other two usually.
For someone like yourself, that's always going to be, all of us are going to be wanting more all the time. So how often do you optimize for what you want? So, like, when you want something, so like now you probably want something different than what you wanted last year, because your goals have changed, you've evolved. So what's your process in order to map out what you actually truly want? Strip away ego, strip away vanity metrics, all this stuff. How do you actually structure what you truly want, so they can, so people can go out and get that?
As I said, it look at your personality. And the whole reason this topic kind of came up is because, everything I've been through and the way that I am as a person, dude, I can't do peace. Like, or at least maybe at this season of my life, I can't do, like, I don't care about peace. Like, I always like to give, just like certain companies have, as every company should have, their terms and conditions. When I'm coming on these podcasts, because I have, not a massive audience, but a decent audience, and definitely a cult-like audience.
Yeah.
I feel as though it's important to sort of give the terms and conditions that you can try to have my life if you want, but just understand that it comes with not too much joy and pretty much next to zero peace. Of course, I experience moments of peace when I meditate, or, walking down the street in certain places, the sun shining. Of course, I do feel moments of peace, but in general, you're going to lack in those things, but you'll have more fulfillment, and you'll have the things that everyone else wants, right? So I think it's important for me to sort of give these, T's and C's, and just tell people what the actual reality of these things, because,
everything has a cost associated, essentially, what you're saying.
100%.
Because it's like you live in Dubai, you've got nice homes abroad, you've got the nice watches, you've got the nice things, but I don't think people fully understand what has to be sacrificed to go out and get that. And like, I believe from watching you from a young age, from when you were a young age, even younger than you are now, that especially on YouTube and the way that you've grown and you've shown everything right the way through the journey. It's like you bled through your eyeballs, so to speak, for a long time before you ever had this next season of your life where you're starting to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And I think that people come into your life, watch you on YouTube at this season, and they're looking at it as, I want to achieve that season. Yeah, but the seasons you've got to go through to get to the season that you're in right now is what most people misjudge. I think there's a lot of misjudgment on that. Yeah,
well, also people need to understand that the season I'm in right now, you're going to have less joy than you do in the earlier stages. Because, for example, right now, there's nothing I could buy that could give me any sort of any feeling.
Yeah.
Like there's literally nothing, right? And this is what people need to understand, when they hear, like, obviously the whole quote you see on Instagram, they say money can't buy happiness, but I'd rather cry in a Lambo than a Toyota. Well, no, that's actually not true, right? Because at least when you're crying in a Toyota, you're crying in a Toyota because you think that you have lack in your life. You're like, I'm crying because I'm in the Toyota. And, once I get to this or that stage of life, then I'll be happy, right? When you're crying in the Lambo or you're crying in the Rolls Royce, you're like, oh, fundamentally, I'm not happy, right?
Yeah.
And which is what people say. But as I said, if people understood joy, fulfillment, and peace, they would understand why they have these emotions, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, the person who's grinding and just made their first 100K a year, you're gonna get more satisfaction from that than I do at 8 figures a year, because nothing's new. The way I kind of describe it is like, imagine if you lost your sense of taste. You can never enjoy food ever. There's no pleasure you could ever derive from any food ever. You're still going to go to restaurants. Of course you're going to go, because it's just a part of life, right? But you get no sense of pleasure from it, right? So that's the thing. People look at my life and they're like, oh, he flies private and has these watches and, can spend and splurge and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but just understand, you get no pleasure from that. You do it because, of course, it is...
You've normalized it. That's why the pleasure's gone.
Yeah, of course.
Once you normalize it, you've accentuated, like you say, into the next season of your life. So you're looking essentially for those next goals that give you that next part where you do feel like, the first time you buy a jet in the future or something like that, you'll probably feel something then. But by the time you bought your 7th one, you're not going to feel it as much as when you bought your first one.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first time I flew first class, it was crazy. Like it was an amazing experience. By the 80th time you've flown first class, and you get the little sliding door, like I mean, or you get one of the if you're flying with Singapore, or you're flying with Etihad, the suites. It's cool the first time, but once you've done it X amount of times, first time you fly private, it's cool. Once you've done it X amount of times, it's But for example, the first time I actually buy my own jet. I'm not at a stage right now where I could buy a jet, and I have my company branding on the side. That'll give me a lot of pleasure. Once I've upgraded to my from the Challenger 350 to, let's say, whatever, a larger plane, yeah, of course, I'll get a pleasure from the first time, but once you do it X amount of times, then there's no feeling they can give you. And that's why you've got people like Dan Bilzerian, who's like, yeah, at some point I want to go work at Walmart, because he's trying to like sort of wipe the slate clean. Right. And I've thought about this as well. I'm like, oh, maybe I should like fly economy so that way I appreciate first class more. And then I'm like, I mean, I could, but it's also just not sensible, right? Like in the same way, a wealthy person could go from flying, private to, doing economy, right? Just to like reset. But it's also like, no, you work hard so that way, the reason people fly, the reason I fly in Europe like private jet, private or, long haul first class is because it does bring a comfort to your life, and it makes my life easier, and it makes it easier for me to do the bigger things and the harder things that I want. But it's definitely just, as long as people know going into it, they won't bring you any extra sense of joy, then, just go into it with your eyes open is all I'm saying.
Yeah. And the thing I like about you is the fact of like, there's a lot of shiny objects around for people at the moment, especially for the people that watch this. There'll be a lot of shiny objects, whether it be e-com, whether it be this, whether it be that, 16 different ways to make money online. All this crap is all out there. But the way that you've made your first money in order to access all this was on the back of a traditional, well, not so much traditional, but a nuts and bolts agency. And you deliver this result over here, you charge this over here, performance-based stuff. Mm-hmm. Just for most people that want to create more abundance in their life, because I remember you saying about your agency that your agency wasn't the kind of end goal. It was just to facilitate you doing something.
It's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Like an agency should never be the end goal, because it's very, for me, I think it's a very depressing business to run for 30 years, but it's the best stepping stone possible.
So you think the agency model then, even now, is still the best
100%
stepping stone for someone to go from, say, job or side hustle type thing into creating this abundance?
As an agency is just whatever you're doing, but you're using leverage, right? So let's say, for example, even with what you do, you could sit there every single day and deliver the services for the clients and this and that, but that's like, there's no leverage in that, right? So all an agency is using leverage, hiring people, whether that's at first on a contract or per client per month basis, or eventually hiring people full time to then deliver the services for you. And that's what the big scale agencies do. That's all they do. That's all the law firms do, is have a suite of people who charge, who are getting paid, when you take their salary, whatever, let's say £75 an hour, right? Yeah. And they're charging clients $300 an hour. But clients would much rather go to the agency, because rather than going to, directly to the lawyer, or, having some freelance lawyer, whatever it is, because the agency, they understand that the agency not only has the people, but they also have time to focus on the systems, operations, and the client delivery side of things. So it's nothing, it's nothing really that sexy. Like, an agency, some people want, this is the thing as well, and I've seen this with certain business models, especially when it comes to like e-commerce or crypto or like trading as well. I've seen this. Like the easiest way I understand if someone is like a fake trader, like if they don't actually make money trading, is how opulent is their lifestyle, right? Like I have a full-time crypto researcher that I hired last September. He works for me full-time, manages my portfolio, and dude, he maybe has a drink once a month, maybe, with his girlfriend. He has a girlfriend, committed relationship. He doesn't go out because you need to be so on the ball when it comes to being a trader, trading the markets, right? And then I'll see these traders and they're like, in the nightclub, popping champagne and all this stuff and living like a rock star. And you can't do that when you're the only point of reference to your success. The reason I could, dude, the reason I party hard. When I party really hard and I enjoy my life is because if everything came down to me, then how the hell am I meant to grow and be successful when I'm hungover and I'm not performing at my best? So I couldn't do that in the first 3 years of starting my business. I mean, if I knew what I knew now back then, maybe after the first year or so. But the point is, if I'm the weak link, if I'm the strongest link, then, and I'm not performing my best, then everything is going to fall apart. So the reason that I can live like a rock star is because I built that infrastructure and I have the team, right? So as I said, people want to live like a rock star. I say don't, or people want their business to live like a rock star. They see this stuff of like, be a trader. Yeah. Be a trader and you live, you trade from the beach. I mean, first of all, anyone who's actually tried to do any work from the beach,
it's horrendous.
It's horrendous. It's not practical. It doesn't work.
Working from the beach is the most horrible thing that you could ever wish to do.
Yeah.
There's no, I remember when I first got sand in my MacBook, I was like, this is not what it's cracked up to be.
No, not at all.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that people have got this all confused. Like you say, they're getting trapped in chasing the lifestyle before they've got the business that can facilitate the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the other way around. Like you see a lot of people will try and will see the clothes you wear or the watches you wear or the way that you carry yourself, and they'll try and imitate that, and they'll try and frame that, but they won't frame the agency because the agency is boring and it's hard work.
It's so boring. It's such a boring traditional business, but it works.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the other thing. It's like, look, I always say you should, if you want to, live like a rock star. I live like a rock star. Like I live better than the footballers or the rappers like I live very well, in all areas of my life. But that's because I have a traditional boring business that over time I've brought in the right people, and between all my businesses that allows me to live like that. But I'm not, my business is boring. Like for example, in my software company, right? I'm going to see my business partner, my co-founder, later tonight, whenever I'm in London, we like to do a catch up. Dude, we're going to sit and we're going to talk about LTV and we're going to talk about churn and we're going to talk about, different bug fixes. And it's not sexy. It's not fun. Like if you listen to my team meetings, bro, they're not, it's not sexy. But my life is good because of it, right? Yeah. So I think, as I said, you see this a lot even with like a lot of the e-commerce people. They get into e-commerce because they think, it's sexy. And even I see this a lot with even my friends that have then gone on to run successful agencies. They get to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes even 100,000 a month. That's profit though. In the agency world, we exclusively speak profit because nothing else matters. And they get to that point and then they see the e-com guys. It's funny because the agency guys see the e-com guys and the agency guys want what the e-com guys have and the e-com guys want what the agency guys have because the e-com guys are all, I mean, look, there's some outliers, but the e-com guys are all flat broke. They got no money, right? Because the thing, if they're running sort of traditional e-commerce businesses, right? Because you have to, if you want to improve your margins and that has that business has a notoriously low margins, then you're going to want to sort of negotiate good terms with your suppliers. And a lot of times that involves fronting a lot of money ahead of time. Unless you're Gymshark and you can negotiate some of the crazy terms that they can negotiate. A lot of these guys, they don't have a lot of money. I was having lunch with one of my friends yesterday. I won't say his name, but his company is worth multiple 8 figures, probably at this point even 9-figure territory. Yeah, they do. Yeah, easily. They do 8 figures a year. I'm about to see a very well-known e-commerce entrepreneur tomorrow for dinner, and I mean, dude, the guy does like 30 million a year, right? But most people don't realize what comes with that. That comes with very, very low profit at the time, because it said you're having to reinvest everything back into the business. So e-commerce guys want what agency has, which is free cash flow. And then agency guys want what the e-commerce guys have, which is sort of like a cool business. Because the agency is not cool in the slightest. And as I said, I see this with my friends where they'll hit 20, 30K a month. And, they'll be like, oh, I want to start e-commerce brand. And I always have to remind them, I'm like, look, even at my agency, our most successful e-commerce clients sell stuff like glow-in-the-dark teddy bears, sell stuff like radio devices. Everyone has this idea of e-commerce like, oh, I'm going to get into e-commerce and I'm going to start the next jewelry line, or I'm going to start the next successful clothing line. Yeah. You're not. If you're going to make millions and millions and millions and millions in e-commerce, you're going to sell some weird fucking product that if you're at a dinner party and someone says, oh, what do you do for a living? You don't want to say that you sell glow-in-the-dark teddy bears. And that's what everyone has, is like, that's the reality of these successful e-commerce. Like the ones that do really well, you even had Davey
Foggett. Yeah.
Bro, like that's not the coolest business to say that you own, right? Like
first ever podcast, Davey's first ever podcast too.
Yeah, it's good you bagged him. Yeah. And as I said, everyone has this idea that, oh, I'm gonna start the next whatever cool e-commerce brand.
I got a mate that sells coloured sand, mate. I know exactly what you're talking about. Coloured sand, but if coloured sand makes money,
then who cares? Make your business practical, and then your life can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, no, I love
and people
that.
Just need to focus on practicality.
I love it because what you said is so true, because my dad, the one thing my dad did tell me when I was younger that's always rung true is like, boring businesses and boring things make money. Like waste management is boring, but you're always going to need waste management, right? Yep. So waste management businesses earn a lot
and they're more recession proof.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are going to struggle in the next 1 to 2 years, and it's already starting to happen. But like a lot of these fluffy businesses, they're really going to struggle. And especially like I've even seen in the software game, obviously that's at the moment, that's my big focus. And, that's really where most of my time and attention is going. And bro, like we're, me and my co-founder, we're bootstrapped, and we have an insane valuation. We launched publicly in February, and we've already had an 8-figure offer, and which we turned down because we know we're going to sell the company for hundreds of millions in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's because we were practical from day one.
Because your software company delivers services for agencies, right?
Basically, the software is an all-in-one platform for agency owners, right? So it's rather than having to use Slack, Asana, simple invoices, a Pipedrive, rather than having to use all of these tools and have 6 different tabs open, it all congregates into one tool, right? So you manage your team, you manage your clients, you manage everything in one platform, Agency Flow. And it's made specifically for online boutique agencies. Yeah. Right. So we tell people like, hey, if you have 20 employees, 30 employees, don't use us. If you have traditional sort of large scale agency, don't use us. We're specifically targeting the sort of businesses that, the sort of businesses that I help cultivate at my e-learning company, which is online boutique, very niche agencies.
So I could just take Agency Flow and just drop it into content removal.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Providing I don't go past 30 staff or anything like that, we're sweet. You can manage all the clients.
I mean, look, you could have 30 people on there. There's no issues whatsoever. You could do it, but I just think once you get to a certain level, like it's in the same way, right? At when you first, for sales teams that have, maybe it's just a founder, or one extra sales rep, and that's it. Just use Pipedrive. Use Trello if you even want, use Google, you can get creative. But once you get to like, a large sales team, like even at the e-learning company, we have a large sales team and we have setters and we have, there's a lot of stuff that needs to go into it. So for that, we use more advanced solutions like Close, right? Or you use Close, or you use HubSpot or whatever. So the point is there's a tool for everyone at their current stage. So you could use it even if you had 30 employees. I just think at that point, you want to use something that with more advanced features.
Yeah, 100%. No, I see what you're saying. But in relation to, I love the way that you've done that as well, because when you've gone and built this agency, which is this boring business that turns over free cash flow, like you say, which is the best thing about an agency, is the fact that you can your outgoings could be $1,000 a month and you could turn 10 grand. So it's like really highly profitable event, an agency. But what you've done is, from doing that and you're experiencing that's when you pivoted to software as a service, because you could see what's needed, because you've experienced it long enough before. But a lot of people are trying to start software off the bat before knowing the need in the marketplace, right? Is that a lot of what you see?
Yeah, I mean, look, what do Formula One drivers start off with? Go-karts, right? Like if you want to become a world-class Formula One driver, you don't hop in a, you don't go straight into driving Formula One cars. You go into go-karts, then you go into whatever. You work your way up the ranks, right? And it's kind of the same thing when it comes to starting a business. You don't want to start a super difficult business right off the bat. Another thing is, if you wanted to start, for example, my software company, you're going to need a lot of money. And, this is even sometimes my issue with, definitely my issue with people who say, oh, you should get into real estate, or you should get into trading, or you should sometimes even get into e-commerce. It's like, dude, you can very, very easily burn, $1,500 in ads just to validate a product, to find out the product doesn't work. And now you're down $1,500 just to find out that the product doesn't work and you need to find a new product. So it's a scary proposition in the same way, you can very easily lose $2,000, trying to trade crypto, lose the 2,000.
Yeah.
And for me, when you're first starting a business, I believe you should start a business where you can fall, scrape your knees, get no's, get losses, and there's no downside. You want something with as much upside with as little downside. You basically almost want to be, bowling with the bumpers on the side, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people try to get into more difficult businesses with a lot of potential downside, and they get burned.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying as well is, with an agency model, you can literally have your laptop. Mm-hmm. You can go anywhere in the world. You can fly to Bali, fly to Thailand to start your agency if you wanted to. If you want to bring your costs associated with starting.
Bali, because I give this advice to people a lot. Bali, I mean, you can. I don't recommend Bali. Places like Cape Town, places like Medellin, stuff like, just because of time zones, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Bro, I've done it before. When I had my agency, I've been to Bali for 2 months, and it was just a nightmare trying to deal with sales calls and stuff like that. Yeah, time zone is
so what are your top 5 countries then in order for so if someone out there is like, do you know what, I got a little bit of money, I got my buffer stacked in the bank, I want to go out and start my own thing, I'm going to start this agency, I'm going to do social media ads, I'm going to do e-com ads on social, or whatever they're going to do. They figure out what they're going to do, they pack their laptop in the bag. Where would you go to in order around the world to locate yourself so they can just start to build this machine?
I'd go to places like Cape Town. I'd go to places like anywhere in Europe, more the Eastern European side of things. So as I said, places like Cape Town, Romania, Georgia, places in South America, certain places in South America, Colombia, Brazil, if you want. Like, really just take your pick. But the great thing about these places, you're going to spend half as much money and you're going to get a much better quality of life. So instantly, just by making that decision, you're already earning twice as much money because you've got your costs down. Yeah. And then you can obviously try and scale and stuff like that.
What do you think is the one thing that stops most people from having that abundant success in their life? That we see a lot of people on social media that hate their life living in England working a job, or hate their life in Australia working a job, or hate their life in America working a job. What is the one thing that you find holds those people back?
I mean, there's no one thing. It's 101 different things. Maybe they're watching the news. Maybe your YouTube subscription box says a lot about a person. Maybe their YouTube subscription box is some fucking idiots, right? Maybe if you have TikTok on your phone, I will say, I thought the same thing about Twitter. I thought Twitter was the stupidest thing ever. And then I got on Twitter and I'm like, oh, actually, there's some very, very intelligent people here. So, I've heard the same thing, even like my co-founder of my software company, he adores TikTok. He's like, actually, there's some great pockets of info in there. But just in general, the point is, like, it's not so much what people need to do, it's what they need to stop doing. And they're, most people are just getting fucked in every single angle. Foods they're eating, people they're associating with, things they're taking in, drinking soy milk. You name it, they're getting fucked on every single angle,
soy milk.
So, yeah, they become soy boys, and then they become estrogenic, and they wonder why, they don't have enough energy to get up and conquer.
Do you know what, right? The videos that hit it most for me from you in the early days is when you talk about monk mode. Mm-hmm. And you talk about going into this mode where, you shut out all the noise, all the dopamine hits, you nail your sleep, all this stuff. Just in terms of, like, obviously those videos were wildly successful, but talk to me about your process of coming across and refining monk mode and what monk mode was for you.
So I think, like, I didn't really have a clear cut sort of, okay, I'm doing monk mode until basically the world shut down, March or April of 2020. And I was stuck in Cape Town. So, basically everything was happening and I was in Cape Town at the time. And my mom was like, oh, maybe you should come back, blah blah. And I'm like walking on the beach, and they're telling me like UK's like London shut down and people are staying in their house. I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, I'm fine. I'm cool here. So then I stayed in Cape Town, and I was with Pete, who was one of my good friends at the time, and actually ended up being my co-founder of my NFT project. And basically I just made the decision, I'm going to stay in Cape Town. And Cape Town was, South Africa was very, very rough with how sort of tyrannical they were. Like, you couldn't buy any alcohol, you couldn't buy any cigarettes. I mean, I don't smoke cigarettes anyways, but you couldn't buy alcohol, couldn't buy cigarettes. You couldn't leave your house even for a walk, only to go to the supermarket. So it was in that period where everything got sort of stripped away that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do and that's really when that's when I had some more peace in my life. That was an example of a time where I had more peace, and when I had more peace, then I could really sort of do more introspection, right? And that's kind of where monk mode came about, and I realized how powerful it was. So I decided the next time around that I went to Cape Town, I would do the same thing, even though things were open. I decided, okay, for the next 6 weeks, no alcohol, only 45 minutes of screen time on my phone a day. So 45 minutes screen time, pray once a day, and then I did strict carnivore diet. Yeah.
How did you decide though those 4 things specifically? Is that because one, obviously the carnivore diet's for your body. Mm-hmm. Is there any, obviously there's training in monk mode as well? Yes.
So here's what it is. So when I actually give people the monk mode protocol, I always say at least 15 minutes of meditation a day. 15 minutes of meditation. Like, the most important things are the 15 minutes of meditation a day, and what's it called? Screen time, and then also getting exercise. But for me, like, exercise is not an issue. Like, I don't need to put that in my monk mode protocol, whereas for other people, getting exercise is tough. For me, not getting exercise is tough. Yeah. I'm sure it's the same thing with you.
Yeah.
Because it's such
it's ingrained in me.
It's ingrained in you at this point. So for you, not training is harder than training. So that's why for me, I didn't include in mine, because for me, like, exercise is kind of a given, where there are certain habits that kind of slip to wayside. Screen time, it can get out of hand very, very quickly on your phone. Even things like meditation. There have been periods where I don't meditate for 2-3 weeks, and I'm like,
you do feel it. Like, I didn't realize that until literally maybe 3 days ago, that you have to have a set of protocols for how you operate in certain areas. Like, how I operate in Australia is different to how I operate in the UK, right? But I have a framework to work from in Australia, and it works very well for me. When I came to the UK, I didn't have that framework for like the first 6 weeks, and it was just like, I wasn't grounded, so to speak. I haven't grounded myself into the place. I think you've got to have a set of protocols for each place that you're in. I presume that's that.
Yeah, 100%. And this is also why, like, a lot of people want to do like laptop lifestyle. Every 4 or 5 days, I'm on the move to a new city. No chance. No, you're messing yourself up so much. Like, do the laptop lifestyle if you want, and be a nomad and whatnot, but go to places for 6 to 8 weeks. 6, 8, 12 weeks.
Slow mad.
Yeah, slow mad. That's the one. It
is slow mad. Like, because I was thinking about, I want to travel more and do the podcast and travel more and meet people like yourself and go to Dubai and all this stuff, but I'm not going for any less than 3 months anymore. Yeah. Because that you have to, say I go to Portugal tomorrow and I arrive in Portugal, and then I've got to find out where the Wi-Fi is, and I've got to the good Wi-Fi, because half the Wi-Fi is shit. It's like you're not guaranteed anything, are you, when you go to these places? So you can't have a protocol. Living out of a suitcase is horrendous.
Horrible. Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would want to do it, but when you're in monk mode, celibacy, is that celibate as well?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the other thing. Like, I include as like, look, if you have a girlfriend or something like that, then that's a different story. But no touching yourself. Definitely no touch, because there's a big difference between having sex with a person you care about compared to self-pleasing.
So like, you literally like ban all like masturbation, everything. Like,
yeah, no chance. I mean, masturbation as a whole is horrific.
Right.
Yeah. Porn, like, look, there's a sliding scale. The worst is porn and masturbation. Then below that is like, I don't know, masturbation with imagination. That can actually be good for some guys, because there's a lot of sexual teachers out there that you can actually learn a lot by touching yourself, but doing it in with intention, right? And then you go down a sliding scale, and then below that is, you know, sex with a person. And then, you know, the best thing is sex with a person that you actually care about.
Yeah. So no, but I want you to talk into that, because I think a lot of men don't understand how much fucking time is wasted in the pursuit of sexual gratification.
Yeah, 100%.
Like when I went celibate for 100 days, it was, I took my podcast in Australia at the time from like number 91 to number 5 in the category, because of how much, you know, I was just dialed in on the actual process and just creating content. There was no distractions. You're not texting. You're not DMing on Instagram. You're not trying to slide in physically or mentally speaking. Like, do you know what I'm saying? There's that frees you up, and when you're freed up, you can operate on a whole different level. I think everyone should do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sexual energy is the most powerful energy that a man has, and most guys just waste it into tissue. You know, so
well, I was reading a study on semen retention, right? Because everyone was talking about this semen retention as a topic, because it was like the in topic, and sexual energy is your creative space.
Yeah, 100%.
And by holding that within you as a man, you can get more creative and get more. You have clearer clarity of thought, and everything happens more for you. Like a lot of the major breathwork teachers practice it and all that stuff. I mean, as a guide for young lads listening to this that might want to obviously go and start their agency, go and do the bits that they're going to do in business, would you say like 90 to 100 days, just go complete monk mode and get dialed in, and because that gives someone a framework to change their life, doesn't it?
I mean, actually, I say for most people, do between like 21 to 90 days. Like, even if you do that for 3 weeks, because it's already quite intense at that point for some people. So even if you do it for 3 weeks, it can be quite powerful. But I also don't recommend anything more than 90 days, because you'll go crazy, right? So monk mode is it's a period that you do, and then after that, you know, you can blow off some steam, and then you can go into another period if you want. But yeah,
how long is your blow off steam period for you?
It depends. It depends what I'm doing. So, you know, sometimes, you know, before it's been 3 or 4 days. Sometimes it's like, okay, now my blow off period's 4 months. You know? Yeah. Because environment is everything. That's the thing. Like, I'm not going to do monk mode in London. Like, no chance in hell. Like, it's too difficult for me to do monk mode in London, because I have so many, you know, I have so many distractions in terms of, you know, friends, girls, this, that. Like, the environment weighs on you, right? In the same way, I live in Dubai, and Dubai, doing monk mode, for example, in December, January, February is impossible, because everyone comes to Dubai. You know, December, January, Feb, everyone comes to Dubai to visit me, to visit. And the thing is, I live there, so I'm just living my day-to-day life, whereas everyone's going on vacation, or it's like a trip or this or that. And dude, every week it's 10 old business associates, acquaintances, friends, old flings, whatever it is, right? And there's a lot of distraction there, so it's very difficult. So just having enough self-awareness, whereas that's one of the reasons I have a house in Cape Town, because for me, it's just such a good place to get away from the distractions, away from everything. And when I'm in Cape Town, that's when I do monk mode.
Where would you reckon would be a good place for me to go do monk mode?
I mean, I personally love Cape Town, but as I said, it depends where
you're just basically saying physically change your environment to change your state.
Yeah, because also the other thing is, it depends if you're doing monk mode in November, December. In that case, I'd say don't go to Georgia. But maybe if you go to Georgia in, you know, September, if you go to Georgia in April, May, that might be a good time. So it all depends on the season as well. Obviously, with Cape Town, one of the things I like is it's reverse seasons. So their summer is in, you know, November, December, January, Feb, around that period. I mean, it's always pretty nice in Cape Town, but
essentially what you're saying to people is change your environment if you want to change your state, and then that's kind of
it's the easiest way. And here's the thing, you know, for some people listening to this, they're like, okay, cool, I live at home with my mom in Acton. It's not practical for me to fly to, you know, some tropical location or so, you know, some other place to improve my environment. That's fine. Just work with what you have.
I think most people, from what I've seen in Australia and the UK myself, it's like most people think that they can't do things. That's because they're holding on to too many things that they don't need in their life, you know, and usually materialistic things like cars, watches, other stuff that they have to sell. Like, people think that they can't afford to leave, for argument's sake, but if they just sold their shit, they could just go and do whatever they actually wanted in life. I've kind of figured out as I've gone on that the secret is less, not more. The secret is always less, because like as soon as you've got more stuff, you got more things to worry about. Like I'm worrying about at the moment, you know, I'm not worrying about it, but it's like it's always going to be in the back of my mind that I've got a property over in Australia that I'm paying for. I've got this, because that's that. If I leave that door open and I've got doors open over here, that's mental real estate you're playing with, right?
100%.
It's like you gotta curate how much you're thinking about and free that thinking space so that you can go and do these things that you're saying. But if you want my advice, sell your shit and go and sell your shit and then go and do this for 3 or 4 months and see how much you change your life. Because if you've ever dreamt about starting a business and all this stuff, instead of dreaming about it, why don't you just take his advice and go and do a monk mode for even just 3 weeks, just 3 weeks in Europe. Like you can get a package holiday for like £1,500. You can do it. Like it's just yeah. I'm passionate about telling you that because I've seen how much just a period of even just celibacy can really give you so much clarity as a man, especially for men, because men are we're everywhere. Our eyes are popping off all over the shop, I think.
100%.
Like yeah. But in relation to you going to Dubai, what was the key driver in that? Just everything that was happening
I didn't like what was happening with all the tyrannical stuff in the UK. For me, once the government tells me I can't leave my house, that's it. Like I'm done. And it's I don't know. It's such a long, broad topic, but I looked at the time when I made the decision, which was January of 2021. I looked at everything that was going on, and I was like, UK is not going in the right direction. What places are going in the right direction? I know that a lot of people have like some, moral issues with, how the inception of Dubai and, labor and this and that and whatever. It's a very complicated discussion, that's for sure. But, these are also the same people that, won't acknowledge the fact that, their government is quite literally the most evil organization on earth. And they go to foreign countries to bring peace to countries that don't need their peace. That's also one of the other reasons. I'm at a stage right now where once you get to a certain level, and as long as you get to control your income and basically as long as it's not earned income from a career, like if you're a footballer, there's nothing you can really do about your taxes, right? Obviously you can take that money and once it becomes, net, then you can play around and do some stuff. But especially if you have a business, you're a business owner, you get to a certain point where you never need to pay taxes ever again, no matter where you live, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't even so much taxes, it was more I don't know, like I was just disgusted. I was just disgusted by the UK government. And funnily enough, UK ended up being one of the best places, and I was super proud of like the way they remove all the, the vax passes, and they were kind of like one of the best countries to actually be in sort of from mid 2021 onwards. And yeah, but just when I made the decision, the UK was tyrannical, and it was just like, COVID just made me really sad. Like it was just really sad to see the way that, people just gave up all their freedoms. And I was very disgusted by the UK when I made the decision. And I looked at, where in the world is kind of progressing. And, I know there's some people that will debate otherwise, but Dubai in general is going in the right direction. In the same way you even look at America, Miami is going in the right direction and for me, the right direction is like, don't piss off the rich people. Don't piss off wealthy people, because everyone wants to demonize wealthy people. But no, the wealthy people are the people who actually create all the jobs. People mistake wealthy people to the bankers. Like, bankers are scum, full stop. Like, I despise bankers, right? I despise bankers. I despise anyone who works in government because it's the biggest criminal organization on earth. But don't try to demonize wealthy people. As much as people think, the rich people step on toes or whatever, this or that. No, like you can get away with that for a year, 18 months, and then you get found out. The wealthy people are the people who create the jobs, and they have to provide value because they live in a free market. So, I just looked at the way that sort of Dubai was headed, and I was like, for this season of life, it makes sense. And
just going out there and structuring yourself better obviously must have a massive tax benefit.
I mean, yes and no, but as I said, like, look, if you're making $1 million a year or something, it's going to be massive benefit. But once you get to sort of the level that I only reached that level really in 2021 and now in 2022. But once you get to a certain level, like, look, when I come back to the UK, I'll never pay tax ever again because the tax code is written in a way where, there's 101 different ways to do it. But, one of the easiest ways is you just take a loan against your asset, and loans aren't taxable.
Yeah.
So it's the very wealthy people who live in the UK aren't actually paying.
Yeah, and
aren't paying any taxes personally, by the way, because that's the other thing. People are like, oh, but the wealthy people don't pay taxes. Yeah, but then look at their companies. Like you know, look at their companies. There's no way to get over the corporate tax. There's no way to get over VAT. There's no way to get over, all the employer tax they're paying, right?
Yeah.
You're getting taxed on.
But they're not going to pay themselves $1 billion in income, are they?
Yeah,
like,
but
let's be honest.
Of course, their personal tax liability, they're trying to get down as much as possible, and of course they should, as they have every right to.
Yeah, 100%. Like your job is to not avoid, but minimize as much as possible.
Yeah, and it's just like, of course, if you're a wealthy person and you're providing so much value and you're creating so much abundance in this world, and then you're doing that and you're paying so much tax along the way as well, and you're going through so many loopholes and stuff like that. You have to jump through so many hoops, and then everyone else is like, you're not paying your fair share. Look, as I said, my mom, she worked for the NHS. We're on government benefits at some point. Like, I don't come from wealth. I had a weird childhood, as I said, where I was around wealth, but we don't come from wealth, right? But even at our early, and once again, maybe that's also because my mom's the youngest of 7, from Soviet Union. Like, she would look at like people who complained, and I look at certain people who complain in the US or the UK, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting, and they just want to throw their problems at the wealthy people and say, oh, villainize the rich and stuff like that. When we were dirt poor, when we were on government benefits, we never villainized the wealthy people. We understood, they really are the ones who give the opportunity to everyone else.
Well, the amount of risk that someone who has supposed quote unquote wealth has had to take in order to create that wealth, it's like, people forget that person's had to remortgage their home at some point. That person's had to, probably not took a wage for the first 3 years of their business, not even 50 grand a year, not even 20 grand a year, not even 15 grand a year. Some of these people, some have had to plumb it all back into the business. And that's what you have to do. And then if 10 years down the track, now that business is making multiple millions, and they decide to take dividends, and the dividends aren't taxed at the rate of income, then what's the problem? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, as I said, I do have an issue with the bankers, or not really companies or businesses. I'm talking like big corporations. Yeah. Right. Like, look, some of the corporations are just the most evil people on earth. Even if you look at like some of the big corporations, I understand, but I'm not angry at them about their tax liability. It's more the fact, like, what they're doing. Yeah. Like, they know they're ruining a civilization, and a lot of times, that's one of their intentions. So,
well, all the big tech companies are all just designed to take away the attention from what we should all be putting our attention on. We should be putting our attention on building relationships with our families. We should be putting attention on building better businesses for ourselves, building better, cash flowing businesses. We should be putting attention into that, not attention into consuming content on Instagram, consuming content on TikTok, consuming the wrong content on YouTube. YouTube's a great content engine, but if you can consume the right shit and you consume the wrong shit, you can also consume too much of everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if someone went and watched 87 hours of your videos but took no fucking action, what's the point of consuming the content, 100%. Right? Like, you got to know what game you're playing, and I think a lot of people are playing the wrong game. In terms of like what's in like up for you for the next year or so, I presume you're absolutely going to send it on a whole different stratosphere. The NFT project being one of these things. What's your plans for it? Obviously,
so right now we the main thing that we're working on is a concierge service. When I say we're working on, as I said, unfortunately, under NDA, we can't disclose the actual company, but we partnered up, and man, I don't know how we managed to get that partnership, but we partnered up with the most powerful concierge service on earth. It's a private membership service, a concierge service. So you basically have to apply, and if you're selected, basically I actually heard about him first from my co-founder, who's Swiss, and his network is insane. He's had many friends sell their company for multiple 8, multiple 9, even 10 figures. And on that note, he was telling me about this super powerful concierge service and this and that. And actually, I've actually applied to be a member back in December, and they never accepted me. And
now you're getting it provided through your own NFT potentially.
And not potentially. It's done.
It's done.
Yeah,
Deal's done.
So we partnered up with them. The app is launching in 3-4 months. Like our own, basically, you'll go on the app store. It'll be Gents Croquet Club concierge service. like Just Go K Club Concierge. So anyone who's a GCC member can download that, and they'll have, anyone can download it. You just won't be able to access any of the features. And then anyone who has GCC will basically be able to be ported into that. Whereas, like I said, I like to think I'm an important person, and I walk into Patek Philippe or Rolex or this, I have great relationships with all the brands, all whatever membership I want, I get. And I didn't even get accepted for this concierge service because you have to apply. And yeah, now our GCC members don't have to apply with potentially a 2% chance or less than a 1% chance of getting actually far less than 1%, but less than a 1% chance of getting accepted. They get it because they're GCC members, and we form this partnership. So that's just one of the things that we're working on. So what is a concierge service? Basically, they'll be on the app. And I was even test driving it last month, everything from, private jets. Because normally if you're flying private, you're dealing with a broker, and obviously they're going to take a little percentage on top. So, for example, I was dealing with my broker and getting quotes for a flight, 22,000 pounds, with our concierge service, getting quoted 16 for the exact same aircraft and the exact same leg. So, stuff like that. Stuff like, there's, handbags that I liked the look of. So, I sent it to concierge service because, they didn't have it available at Chanel or Hermes. So I told them this is the one I want, because they have partnerships with all these brands. And they were like, cool, charge it to your Amex. It'll be there in 2 days, for my mom in Dubai. So stuff like that. Or, as you know, I have an amazing assistant. And
yeah,
I have a lovely assistant, Amara, and she knows sort of the restaurants I like and stuff like that. And I'll tell her, I need dinner for 2 people tomorrow at 9 p.m. And she'll call up some of our places or some of my favorite spots, and she'll be like, look, nothing available. Then she'll go on the concierge app, because on the concierge app you can port in your assistant as well. She'll go on there, and then I've had it before where like the busiest restaurants in London, within 1 hour notice, they're like, yeah, we kicked someone off the table. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And what made you put that into like an NFT type thing? Because obviously NFTs are one of these.
NFTs are a scam. Like 99.9% NFTs are a scam.
Yeah,
they're just a money grab. Why? Because I believe there's certain things, like I don't think I have an NFT business. That's like saying like,
yeah.
Like, look, sure, you have a software company, but the thing is, you have a software is an umbrella. It's a type of business, right?
Yeah.
But your company still solves a problem, right? An e-commerce company is a type of business, but at the end of the day, it's still whatever the product is, right? And it's the same with NFT. People think, oh, I have an NFT company. No, for me, NFT is just a pricing model, right? It's a pricing model where you decided, hey, I'm going to charge more upfront than potentially I would, if it was recurring or whatever. And I have so much belief in the product that when it sells, for, or at least in our case, substantially more than, we initially sold it for, we get a percentage of the royalties, right? So we get anytime someone sells the NFT, we get 8.5%, right? So yeah, at some point after launching, it was worth 8 times as much. The floor was 8 times. I think now it's whatever, 2.5, 3 times floor, right? Because we're in a pretty brutal bear market at the moment. Yeah. And NFT volumes are at all-time lows. But then again, that's a testament to what we've done, where, even though NFT volumes are at all-time lows, our project is still holding up, very, very solid. And that's before we roll out a lot of the main key features.
So essentially, what you're saying is most NFTs in the way that they're used are a scam, but the NFT function in itself
is very powerful. Yeah,
is very powerful and allows you to have this, really tight, smart contracted system that allows you to see who your members are, who has access.
Because what it is, it's basically like, and for certain businesses they make sense, for certain businesses they don't, right? For example, my software company, it doesn't make sense for that to be an NFT, because it makes sense that it's a monthly subscription, right? Whereas when it comes to memberships, I believe those should be NFTs, because I believe your seat at the table should be an asset, right? So let's say, for example, at let's say Annabelle's here in London, I don't know the actual numbers, but let's say 5,000 members, where, at Annabelle's, and then let's say at, a place called Kicks, I was a member of that too, which is, it was like 10,000 pounds, which basically just a gym, right? A gym, members club, they're allowed X amount of people a year, right? When I left Kicks, because obviously it doesn't make sense for me to have that membership anymore, or any of the other memberships, I'm only in London less than 45 days a year. When I gave that up, I just stopped paying the fee, but that's it, right? Whereas if I left, I could have been like, okay, I'm selling my spot, one of 1,000 spots, because they can only hold a certain amount of members. I'm selling one of the 1,000 spots.
So you've bought an asset.
So my seat at the table is an asset. And I think for masterminds that, in the same way, there's $50,000 masterminds. When I leave that mastermind, I believe, they're just going to sell my spot on to someone else. Whereas I believe my seat at the table should be an asset, and I should then be able to sell that on.
This is what I want to create with an NFT, is to have a mastermind group with people like yourself in it, where everyone's paying a high fee to be in it because they're surrounded by greatness in the mastermind. It's like, and it holds the value of the ticket because of who you're surrounded with. Because it's essentially what Kicks is down the road here is the fact, like, it's only worth its £10,000 fee, because not for the facility itself, but for the actual people that are in the facility that you can meet.
I mean, like the sort of person who's paying 10K a year for a gym. By the way, the funniest thing is when I lived in London, because I was legitimately 30 seconds away from Kicks, right? When I was in London, when I was living in London, I had a membership at Kicks, but I didn't even use the gym. I went to Pure Gym. Like in, where I lived in Knightsbridge, South Kensington area, like there's no really good gyms around. So my option was Kicks or Pure Gym. Kicks had such a horrible, this indoor space was so terrible. I didn't even use the gym, but I was still paying 10K a year just for, the facilities and the people that I was meeting there. Right, because they had a very good meeting, like a restaurant, meeting area, stuff like that. So, everyone there kind of became like almost family to me and stuff like that.
Well, it pre-qualifies them to be someone that you kind of want to be associated with, because they've had to pay a 10,000 fee before they've even walked through the door.
Yeah, a year.
And it's mad how those, because at the end of the day, it's all about who you're surrounded with. It's all about who you're surrounded with. So in places, by putting yourself into gents croquet club and stuff like that, you are surrounding yourself. My mate Lester's got one of your NFTs. I've not got one. I was looking at the floor price the other day. I think it's what, 0.7 are we at?
No, I mean now it's 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah, bro. At some point it went up to 16. Yeah, at some point our one NFT was worth $50,000.
That's mental.
Yeah, I mean, and
what did you mint them at? What did they mint at?
$4,500. So at some point people, or no, it wasn't. Sorry,
there's only 700 though, isn't there?
There's 975, but there's 700 members. Because the other thing is, at some members clubs, they let anyone in. You had to do a video call application and explain to us in detail why you should be allowed to give us $5,000. So and that's also removes people with ego. Because the worst thing is, man, like I've met a lot of wealthy people that think just because they're wealthy, they're the dog's bollocks, and they're just because you're wealthy doesn't mean you're an interesting person. And I have a rule: I don't like lame people. I even have a rule in my company. Like I've fired people before. Well, not necessarily fired. Basically, I always say at my companies, you either work at the company for 60 days or 6 years, right? We do like a 60-day probation. And I have literally let go of people who are great at their job just because I think they're lame. Because if I brought them to Nepal, to the schools that we're building, we're going in November, I'm taking 10 of my team to visit our 4 completed projects and the new projects that we're working on. If I take them there, I just don't want to have a beer with them. There's no matter how good you are, if you're lame, for me personally, and you can't do this at big corporations and stuff like that, but even at our scale, which is between all the companies, it's, man, we're hiring quick. Between the companies, I think it's 60-70, right? But even at that scale, like still my rule is just no lame people. So that's why even at GCC, or even for example when you apply to Arts Club or Annabelle's or something. Like for me, I think it's much better if not only do you write your credentials and what art associations you're a member of and this and that. Like, no, you actually have to sit down and you have to do a multiple step process where you sit down face to face and they ask you real human questions to figure out, are you basically a twat? And if you're a twat, you don't get let in. And that's what we did at GCC. You had to do a video call, and a lot of people were like, oh, you can't make people do video calls. Some people want to be anonymous. I'm like, cool, if you want to be anonymous, then fuck off. Go to a different project. I don't care. Because I knew we were giving people free money from day one. Like I just, my project, my audience, stuff like that. Like I knew it was gonna be free money. So I'm like, if I'm gonna give someone free money, they better be a cool person. If they're not a cool person, I don't want someone making money off my, and bear in mind, we have one of the lowest sell rates of any project out there. But of course, inevitably, some people are gonna sell. So yeah,
So right now, for me, good investment or bad investment?
I'd say right now, actually, with NFT volume at absolute lows and everything that we're going to launch with the concierge service, bear in mind everything that you get now as well. Like, we spent a lot of money on a custom platform, so it authenticates with your MetaMask. So when the NFT is in your MetaMask, then you log into the vault. We've got a vault at GCC, and in there we've got courses on how to buy watches at retail, how to, we've got some stuff rolling on, coming out from cigar sommeliers, wine sommeliers. Basically, I wanted to do a thing that, basically I wanted to create a mastermind in a community where it teaches people how to be gentlemen, right? And that sounds ridiculous, but like, dude, like I didn't come from money, and I remember what it was like, being 18, 19, going on a date and having absolutely no idea what the difference is between a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chablis, or the difference between a Pinot Noir and a Merlot. And once you get into certain circles, like you don't need to be an expert at all this stuff, but like you should be able to hold yourself. And as I said, like I'm new money, so I had to learn these things, right? And I had to learn how to conduct myself. And like even just little things like, dude, I went skiing for the first time ever 6 months ago. I've never been skiing. And people are like, that's crazy. I'm like, well, I didn't grow up with money. Like growing up, at least in the UK, like that's a rich person thing to do. And it's not like my mom could afford to send us, my mom's still never even been skiing,
Yeah.
So yeah, you log into Vault, there's a bunch of courses on that, same when it comes to investing. We've got a big course when it comes to how to invest in crypto, how to invest in watches, some social circle stuff, Instagram optimization stuff. So there's basically all these like courses and stuff like that that's available to our members. And then we've also got 3 reports a week from my personal crypto researcher. And some of the reports, by the way, some of our best reports is don't do anything. Don't buy, don't sell, just don't do anything, because we have no indication where the market is going at the moment. So right now, just sit and wait. And outside of that, we're also, it should be rolling out, in the next couple of days. We've also got our Rolodex in there, because that's the other issue I find when you go to, like even when you go to like Soho House, or you go to,
you can't see who else is in there.
Yeah, dude, you join, one of these memberships, and you have to physically go to the location and network with other people. And, maybe you missed, maybe the best connection you could have made in the entire place, you missed by a couple days because they went on a business trip or something. And then you guys never actually got to meet each other. Instead, I'm like, look, when you join some of these members clubs, why isn't there like a directory? So that way, for example, with us on GCC, you log in, you put in all your information, what industry you're in, where in the world you live, your Instagram, your Twitter, whatever information you want to put. And there's, 10 or so different inputs that you can actually put on there. And then you decide, do you want to be public or not? Like, do you want to be put on the Rolodex? And if you want to be put on the Rolodex, now our members can go in there and go, okay, out of the 700 members that are in GCC, which ones live in, for example, I live in Buenos Aires. Who else lives in Buenos Aires, right? And then I can then see their Instagram, their Twitter, their this, that, rather than, messing around on Telegram or Discord. Oh, who's in Buenos Aires? Let's connect, or blah, blah. You can just see right there, and then you can send them a message on Instagram, Twitter, and reach them on, or they can even put their email, right? And there you go. Now you can actually make those connections. So we just want to make things as we want.
You've really stacked the value in there, basically, haven't you?
Yeah, and as I said, that's like the other thing is we're purposely trying not to do much marketing right now, because we know that once we do marketing, I mean, it really is game over. We're trying to roll out all these key features, and then once we have that, as I said, dude, it's this will be probably the most historic NFT in this couple year period, because no one's ever done it.
I think for the niche that you're doing it in, it definitely is, and I think Alex Becker also has one in the gaming niche, Neo Tokyo. I think that is going to be worth an absolute monster as well with what he's doing with Value Trades, because I've looked into a lot of that, and that's another one I missed out on that I didn't get at the mint or anything. And I look back now and I think, fuck.
Yeah.
Another thing, I sold one of my mutant apes, and that really pisses me off.
Why?
Because I think the Bored Ape Yacht Club is a good. Obviously, you've got 4 of them, haven't you? 3.
Yeah, I bought 3.
I think that's a good community.
I bought 3. I sold 2. I kept 1.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but once again,
what was it? What from your experience of being in the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Was it a good?
Dude, I bought 3 Bored Apes. I spent $1.2 million. I got in, and Collabland, which is the tool, Collabland wasn't even working. It was down. So I got in there. I still have never actually gotten into the Bored Ape Discord, like the members Discord. Even to this day, even though I still have one, I've had a Bored Ape, or at least one. As I said, I had 3. I kept it for like a month or like 6 weeks or something. Sold 2.
You ever thought about using the IP though, the actual putting the ape on things? Because I see a lot of people doing it, and some of them are making.
The only ape that I kept is one with a Soviet hat, smoking a cigarette, because I just find it cute. I find it endearing. Obviously, I'm Russian. I'm not really. I don't consider myself Russian. I don't consider myself British. I consider myself confused. I think when you say you're from somewhere, you really have to embody everything about it. So I don't believe I can call myself Russian. I don't believe I can call myself British, even though I lived here for 17 years. And it's the only major sort of passport I hold from like one of the, the top 10 countries. So yeah, I don't think my...
So basically you dropped 1.2. Did you make profit on the 2 that you sold?
No, I lost a lot of money,
How much are you talking?
I lost on each, maybe like 100, 120K, 150K. Yeah. And some people are like, oh my God, you're an idiot, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, yeah, one of the things you need to do is I've made a lot of money when it comes to crypto. That decision right there, I would have never made it normally. The reason I made it, and it was stupid, was because I bought it because it was just a big FU. It was a big FU to the NFT community, because everyone is like, oh, because you got these like project founders and stuff like that who are like, yeah, I bought a mutant ape, blah, blah. And I'm like, or they're like, they have a Bored Ape and they think they're a god. And I'm like, I bought 3 on a video and literally said, this is the biggest scam on earth. I couldn't give less of a shit about this. This is literally just because I can, right? So the decision I made was very like...
An emotional decision.
It was a brand play. It was a decision purely based off of ego. And when you're making investments, don't ever make a decision based off of ego.
Right.
So the smarter thing for me to do would have been, okay, buy 3, because instantly there was press and there was PR about it.
Sell into the noise.
Crypto whale bought 3, blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. And the smart thing would have been to just sell it a week later and, be done with it and just get the free press. But, I thought, oh, if people see me sell, then maybe they'll think, it's because whatever, I can't afford it or this or that. And, so basically then I sold, and, I sold them when they were worth like 250K. So I lost like 150 on each. And then they went down to sub 100.
Yeah,
so,
I think they're at 85, 90K now.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you lost at 150, you took 150 loss. So I was like, well, yeah, but I can also buy it now cheaper for 150. So imagine if I wrote it down even longer, So the first mistake was that it was an ego-driven decision, but that was mainly as a bit of promo for the NFT project, which I didn't need to do.
Do you think when you get as much free cash flow in life as what you have, do you think sometimes you can make a few moves that are like a bit fucking stupid?
No, that was probably one of the only ego decisions I've made in a long time. I usually don't make ego-driven decisions. I have no respect for money whatsoever, which is also another thing that most people, they're like, oh, you have to, my mom's like, you have to respect money, you have to blah, blah. And I'm like, that's why you have none of it. Like, because, look, here's the thing. No one is like, I have to be so careful with air. I have to respect air. Air is,
but it's an abundant amount of it.
Now, here's the thing. If you ever lose your access to air, you appreciate it real quick. And that's the same thing with money.
Yeah.
If you lose your access to money, you appreciate it real quick. But the thing is, I kind of view it like air. And the people who are, so, I need to respect money, like it's blah, blah, like I got a penny pinch and this and that. It's, they usually don't have much of it because it's, once again, it's on a pedestal.
If you stop the flow of money in your life, like you start worrying about it, start hoarding it and stop the flow of it, money's energy.
Yeah.
Right? So money has to flow. If you want money to flow to you, money has to flow away from you as well. So you have to pay your suppliers on time, pay your partners on time, pay the bills. Money, if you believe in the abundance of money, money will flow back to you as long as you're providing value to the marketplace 100%. In equal and excess of what you're trying to take 100%. Back. And it's like that. That's where people, I think, get trapped. They think money's money, but money's energy, and you need to treat it as such if you want to create more of that in your life. That's the way I've kind of understood. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, I just think I don't put it on a pedestal, and I don't respect it because my own government doesn't respect it. Like,
Well, they print it.
yeah, of course. They print it off thin air. It's worth nothing. So why am I going to respect something my own government doesn't respect?
Actually, in the US, money isn't printed by the government. Money is printed
Federal Reserve.
Printed by Federal Reserve, which is a corporation.
Yeah, which is a privately owned institution. That, you know,
that's owned by a few families. I think.
Of course. And all you need to do is read Creature of Jekyll Island. You know, the Federal Reserve was created in 1912, which also happened to be the year that the IRS was created. So yeah, the money's fake. It's fully fake. So why am I going to respect something when they don't even respect it? So
and it's hard to store something and keep something and be sacred about something that they can just turn the printer on.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, the other thing is I save and invest 80% of everything I make. I'm very smart financially, right? It's just the 20%, like, I don't know, I'm not a penny pincher, right? But also the other thing is, like, for some people, the thing is you got to increase your amount of income.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the thing is, if you're earning 30,000 a year, it's gonna be, you can't save 80% and live off 20. Right. So you got to keep making more and more. And then that way you can get to the percentages that I'm at.
What is the sweet spot in terms of, like, how much do you think is the sweet spot where you know, you've made enough in terms of, like, not enough, because you always want to make more in life, but is it 30,000? Is it 20,000? What's that spot?
What, a year or a month?
No, a month.
A month. Once again, it depends where you want to live. Like, for example, in Cape Town, I have I've tried everything to spend more than 30,000 a month, because my quota is I need to spend around 150 to 200,000 a month. Like, I'd force myself to spend it, because for me, basically, I spend 20% of everything I make, and it just so happens I'm in, you know, a very blessed part of my life where I make over 10 million a year. So I force myself to spend 20% of everything I make. So as I said, when I'm in Cape Town, I've tried my absolute hardest to spend more than 30,000 a month. It's impossible. So my point is, you could go, like, for example, let's say you live in Cape Town. And by the way, I speak about Cape Town a lot because I have a house there. You know, your place could be anywhere in the world, like wherever you find as a sanctuary. Like Bali is another example.
Yeah.
It's very hard. Like, it's different when you're visiting there. You know, like, I'm going to Bali next week. You know, every villa I'm staying at is like, you know, $2,500, $3,000 a night. But that's because, you know, it's a villa, I'm renting it, right? If you take those same places and you take a 1-year lease, you're going to be spending, you know, the equivalent of, let's say, $400 a night, right? So the point is, find wherever your sanctuary is. But the point is, you know, if you go to Bali and you actually, like, live there, and that's where your base is, you're going to find it very difficult to spend more than $30,000, $40,000 a month. So let's say you get to a point where you're making, you know, $30,000, $40,000 a month. Obviously, bear in mind taxes, this, that, whatever your tax situation is. And you could not live more like a king in a certain place. Whereas if you come to London, like, dude, when I come to, like, some people think it's ridiculous. They're like, oh, how do you spend, like, you know, let's say 30K on a weekend? It's pretty easy, honestly. You know, you do a bit of shopping, you go out, some dinners, you know, you stay in a hotel. If you're staying, you know, in a nice hotel in London, it's going to cost you £2,000-3,000 a night. So figure out where it is. If you want to live in London, I don't think, it's not to say that 30K isn't enough, but you're not going to live like a king for 30K a month.
Yeah, you got to pick a place where you can live. Like,
if you want to live in Miami, 30K, you're going to live a great life. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to live like a king, right? Same thing in Dubai. Whereas if you go to Cape Town, if you go to, you know, if you actually, like, locate to Bali, whatever it is, and you make 20-30K a month, you're going to be living well. You're going to be living very, very well. So that's why, you know, I think, you know, people shouldn't be, if you have the ability to, and, you know, if you're in the sort of businesses that we're talking about, you have that sort of location freedom. So don't be married to a place for the season of your life. You know, like, for example, I will never, ever raise a family in Dubai. No chance in hell. A lot of the places, and same thing with, like, Cape Town, I necessarily wouldn't want to raise my you know, when it comes to family time, I wouldn't necessarily want to raise them in Cape Town. But for this season of my life, it works very well to have a second home there.
In one of your biggest plays in the last, I'd say, 18 months from my perspective, was the fact of, like, you had the balls to go 1 month and drop $1 million into crypto.
Yeah.
That blew up to, I think, 10.5 million.
It went to 5 months later, it was worth 7. And then I recorded a YouTube video. I think I'm probably the only person on YouTube who literally, I took everything off my cold storage, put them all into exchanges, and literally screen shared, refreshed my exchanges, and showed my $6.8 million crypto portfolio. And I don't think anyone has actually proven it. I did that, recorded a video 5 days or 3 or 5 days after the video came out. That portfolio was worth $3.5 million. So $3.3 worth of value wiped out. Bear in mind, I'd still only put $1 million of principal in, so I was still up a lot. But then I rode it through the summer, and then by the next wave, you know, when it reached its next peak, you know, I learned a skill which is very important, you know, in that space, which is taking profits, right? So by the end of the year, it was worth over 10 million, but I had to learn some lessons to get there.
Yeah, and did you when you say you learned the lesson of taking profit, did you take out 3, 4, 5 million profit, or did you?
Yeah, I mean, once again, it depends, because you can roll it into different things. So it's
what I'm saying is, you didn't take it out, just take 5 million out cash. You've gone and invested it into other assets.
Right now, I'm sitting majority cash. Right now, I'm sitting, in terms of like my actual liquid wealth, I'd say I'm 70% cash at the moment. Yeah.
That surprises me.
Yeah, because prices are going to come down. Crypto prices look, I mean, I got fully out of crypto by April. The last thing I got out of crypto with, like the last thing I sold was Luna in April.
So you have no Bitcoin, no Ethereum.
No, and then I started buying crypto in, I think, like June. I had some market orders set. I had some market orders set at it was like roughly around 20K. It was slightly different. That was some key ranges and some key numbers, but 20K, 19, and then I even got some filled at 18. So at the moment I've got like $1 million worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
because I bought them at prices where, like, let's say things go down to 14K Bitcoin, which I think is definitely a possibility. 16, 17, I think for me is almost a guarantee. But let's say they go down to, 14, 13. If I bought it at 18, 19, I'm not super stressed in the long term.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't want to be buying, I think Bitcoin, right, today is $23,000. I'm not that interested. I'm patient. That's the thing. When I first started getting into investing and getting easy investing money, because that's what crypto is. It's easy money, right? It's easy investing money. Now, you have to go through so many trials and tribulations, and there's so much emotional sort of tolerance that you have to stomach. So I wouldn't say it's easy. Otherwise everyone would do it. I've had people like, oh, you made, it was easy to make that money. And it's like, well, no, not really, because then you would have done it. Like, you didn't have the balls to put in how much I put in, and you didn't also weather the storm. I had to learn a lot of lessons. As I said, the main one was learning how to take profits. So, but it is unnatural gains in that amount of time.
I took a few profits at between 50 and 65 when Bitcoin was between 50 and 65, but in hindsight I should have probably took more, but I've still got all of it, because I made a mistake, and in the next bull run
you'll learn.
I will learn that, as I will dollar cost average it out on the way up, as a dollar cost average in on the way down.
That's the most important
and that's probably something I've learned the hard way. And it's not about taking big chunks. It's literally dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out.
It's just knowing that you're not a genius. You're never going to time the top or the bottom. So just once you start to get into key ranges where you're like, okay, things are getting too fluffy, there has to be a pullback. Then, as I said, set your sell orders, and then sell your buy orders at other key ranges. So yeah, right now I'm sitting 70% cash. Like, the only thing is I've got, my watch portfolio, which is
phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's maybe roughly around $3.5 million. Those I'm not going to sell, because I got basically every single watch. Pretty much every single watch I got was at retail.
And when you walk out the shop with some of the watches that you're buying, they've already gone up 4 times the value.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm not going to sell it. And then the other thing is, don't, because the issue is that then if you sell the watches and, you ever get found out, then you're basically blacklisted from the brands. And then it's just not a smart thing to do. So
they don't want anyone that gets a watch at retail to sell it, do they?
Yeah, of course. So, I've got my watch portfolio. I do have, actually have like between $300,000 to $400,000 worth of bags, which sound ridiculous to some people. Actually, Birkins and Kellys are great investments. So I
didn't know that. I just thought you were buying those for your mum.
No, I do buy some for my mom. But then also the thing is, there's a difference. It's kind of the same thing with watches. The watches that look the best or like you would want aren't necessarily always the ones that are best for investment, if that makes sense. You know, so some of them
in terms of like the best watches at the moment for investment terms, in your opinion, what are
they? The ones that have gotten hit the most. So, you know, Rolexes have taken a big battering. Same thing with Pateks, but I just think it's the stuff that they don't make anymore. You know, like most people don't realize, like steel Daytonas, there's a lot of them. They produce a lot of them. It's the stuff where, as I said, they don't make it anymore, and they're not really the hype pieces. So, I mean, yes, I don't want to give any specific things because, you know, some people might take it as gospel, but in general, I would avoid stuff that's still currently in production, in mass production. And as I said, even when it comes to watches, I think they're going to come down a lot. And
is it worth buying?
I'll give you a perfect example. Over there, I've got a 5712 that I picked up 2 days ago. It's a Nautilus, Patek Philippe Nautilus steel. One of my friends bought it for 140,000 pounds in February. And once again, I have a great relationship with Patek. I buy all my pieces direct from Patek. And the aftermarket never, but it, you know, obviously I get maybe 2-3 pieces a year from Patek, right? From Rolex, I get, I don't know, maybe 15. Obviously, bear in mind, they make a lot more watches as well. And then from the other brands, I said, you know, maybe 2 or 3 as well. So, you know, I know eventually if I want it, I'll get that 5712 from Patek, but there's other pieces that I want more, right? So those are like the main focuses. So that watch, for example, in February, I had a friend who bought it for 140,000. And I told him, I'm like, do not do it. It's going to drop a lot. And I just bought that watch yesterday for 77. Box, papers, everything. Because
and that was already pre-owned.
Yeah. But that watch was, as I said, 140 in February.
Mad.
And I'm like, you guys are idiots. Don't buy it. I mean, the watch goes for, you know, 95, 100. I bought it for 77 because that's the thing. Like, there's watches that for me personally, I don't prefer buying from the aftermarket just because I have the relationships with the brands. So I know I'm going to get the watches anyways, because we built a very good relationship over time. You know, they know I'm a good client. They know I'm not going to sell it. They know, you know, I buy a lot of stuff from my mom as well. But at some of the prices that I'm getting them at, I can't say no. You know, and I think it's going to go down even further. And it's the same thing. And that's why I'm sitting very cash heavy, because, you know, I'm not emotional. I've got so much cash, and if a good deal comes across, then sure. But I know things are going to come down a lot more. And the main chunk of my money, where it's going, is going to be real estate. I'm just waiting.
What type of real estate?
Type of real estate, it's all going to be real estate in Dubai. I have no interest in buying in the UK for the moment. First of all, it's more ties, and, you know, HMRC will try to find any reason to fuck you. So I'd rather you know, I'd rather.
Yeah, I know this.
You know, so for me, I have no ties in the UK. No ties whatsoever. I spend less than 45 days of the year here. You know, I'm allowed to spend 90 days a year with no issues. I spend less than 45. I don't want any reasons for them to try to give. You know, obviously, like I'm in the most traditional businesses on earth, and, you know, I've made my money in such a transparent and open way. And from the age of 18, you know, when I first started my business, even though I've had companies in many different countries. Even when I first started my business, I've still had very clean books and stuff like that. But it's just, I'd rather not deal with HMRC. So one aspect of that is owning properties, because owning properties is more ties to the UK. More ties you have, more reason to be like, you're actually a British taxpayer.
You're actually, yeah.
You know, so, and plus just they treat landlords here like,
they're just about to sign off something in the UK next year, which is why I'm thinking about getting out of properties here, to say that the tenants can stop you selling your properties as well. Like,
it's ridiculous. And even just the fact that you can't even write off the interest on your loan as an expense, whereas, like, for example, in the US, you can do that. You know, so just it's I don't think it's a favorable place to own property. So I'm going to be buying in Dubai.
What type of property in Dubai though? Apartments, houses?
Apartments mainly. Apartments, some houses.
And Airbnb them?
No, just rent them out. Like, you know, I'll give you an example. The place I'm in Dubai, first of all, when I first moved there, it was worth, the property was worth 7.2 million dirhams. So 7.2 million dirhams, and, 4-bedroom apartment plus maid's room, 4-bedroom apartment, like nicest configuration, right at the end of the building. So I have like 180 views in my bedroom of like the water and everything like that, right on the beach. So that was 7.2 million when I moved in. and my rent is 600,000 dirhams a year. So that is roughly around 7.5% the value of the property in terms of rental income.
Yeah.
Right. And that's if you're buying cash, whereas, you know, most people are getting loans. So your cash on cash return is insane. And now the value of the property, you know, less than a year later is 9.2 million. So it's worth 2 million dirhams more in 1 year. And I mean, you know, my landlords did increase the what's it called, the rental, but now they're renting out for around 800,000 dirhams a year. So yeah, Dubai property prices are great, but they go up, but they also come down more.
Yeah.
You know, like I always say,
do you reckon Dubai's due a correction because they're building a hell of a lot out there?
yeah, 100%. Everything is. Yeah, that's why I'm waiting. You know, the real estate market, starts to sort of collapse 18 months on from when the stock market collapses. So, you know, if we look at, you know, roughly around November.
I still think we've got another 20-30% to come down in the stock market.
Yeah, I think so. But, you know, if we look at November 2021, I'm, you know, somewhere in 2023 region, that's basically what I'm stacking cash for.
Yeah. No, I think it's prudent to do that because I was beating myself up the other day in regards to, because I'm cash heavy in certain respects as well, and I was beating myself up for having so much. But hearing you say that, and I've heard Hormozy say it as well on his YouTube and TikTok, that he's got like 30-40 million in the bank because he doesn't think there's a better opportunity at the moment than cash. But everyone tells you not to have cash in the bank. You know, you got the Grant Cardones, and Rob Moore was saying don't have cash in the bank to me as well. It's like, you know, everyone's got a different opinion on cash in the bank, isn't they?
It depends on your opportunities. Once again, as I said, it's like, look, I mean, I could buy, you know, it's like, it's not that I think it's smart to have cash. It's just I'm looking at the opportunities. And the thing is, there's more opportunities. For example, in the crypto market, right? We might have real estate prices at all-time highs, or we might have a very solid real estate market. But if, you know, Bitcoin goes down to 14, 15,000, dude, I'm deploying $5 million, right?
So it's so sick, bro, to hear you say that. That's so sick, man. Yeah, that's inspirational, man. I'd love to have $5 million worth of cash sat on the sidelines, man. This is why I got you on here, because that is inspiring shit. You know what I mean? How old are you?
22.
22 years old now. 22 years old to be able to deploy 5 million of cash into a crypto crash. Fucking unbelievable, bro.
So first of all, I appreciate that.
No, mate, you got credit, because I'm 34 years old, and I didn't even start in business and entrepreneurship till I was like 27, 28. So I started late. You know what I'm saying? So it's inspiring when I get lads like you say that, because it's like my mate Lester as well, who we sent that message. Lester, if you're listening to this, bro, you should. But Lester, if you're listening to this, mate, you should love me right now for what I sent you. But anyway, but he's another, you know, 18, 19, 20 years old with all this cash and stuff like that. That's fucking brilliant, man. You got to celebrate that. You got to celebrate that. It, man. Especially as when you get into your 30s like me, man. Yeah, man, full credit to you, bro. Full credit for that. But no, you're gonna deploy that into this next crash.
But as I said, I'm saying like that could happen. Let's say whatever that happens in, you know, let's say something crazy happens. You know, the Federal Reserve at their next meeting decides to raise interest rate by 100 basis points. Yeah. Right. And you know, crypto goes down, or you know, let's say, I mean, very possible something happens with Tether. Right, and
Tether's I don't keep anything in Tether.
You know, it's ticking time bomb, and it's you know, and let's say something happens and there's a flash crash and all that stuff. I'll deploy it, and as I said, I could deploy that because there's opportunity there. Whereas the thing that I really want to put most of my money in, which is real estate at this point, I might be waiting for the right moment for real estate. So it's not. I'm not. You know, I'm looking for different opportunities in different markets.
You've got you. What you've done is you've built a boring business that's kicked off cash flow, that's allowed you to stack cash, which now allows you time to think, which is what a lot of people don't understand. You've got time to think, and that's what putting cash on the sidelines and saving and stuff like that, and being prudent in those regards gives you, because all essentially a lot of you are looking for is time. Once you got the time, a year's worth of cash in your bank, that gives you. If you you can sort anything out in a year, can't you? If you fuck it up, if you can just sit there and think about what you've done for a year, that's fucking brilliant, isn't it? So it's like, you know, what you've done is prudent, mate. Like you've got time, and time is what you need. And you've bought that 5 million buys a shitload of time. Because mate, even at your run rate of lifestyle, how many years of lifestyle does that give you? 5?
Oh, I got more than 5.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, let's just work on 5.
Let's not much. 5 gives me 2.5 years. I spend like 2 million a year.
Yeah, but 2.5 years is a fucking long time to sort your shit out, bro.
Yeah, but also, I mean, look, if it came down to it and I lost all my income and I only had 5, then basically I'd invest all of it, and then I only live off of the cash, the free cash flow from that. Then I'd move to Cape Town, and I'd just live there for a couple of years until I got back to the point where I was earning a lot of money.
So if you're someone who's listening to this podcast that's massively inspired by you, obviously followed your journey on YouTube, there's going to be a lot of lads, especially watching this, fucking lit up thinking about all the stuff that you've done and achieved. And they're starting at between 0 to 10K, because a lot of people will be starting literally there, or they're definitely starting under 50K, right? 25K. What are the things that they should action in their life right now to give them the best chance of getting from there to 100, from 100 to 1 million, so that they can go and achieve and then go on from there to achieve the lifestyle that you've got?
Increase your income, whether that's at your job, finding a way to sell the value that you bring to your company at your current existing job, or being wise enough to realize that 99.5% of companies are it's a dead end. You're not going to get anywhere with it. So either increasing your income that way, or increase your income by starting a cash flow business, or just offering services. Basically something where just get your money up. That's all you got to do. And in order to get your money up, you have to be practical. Okay. Don't try to start a business where the potential downside is very high. One of the things about, for example, you look at a wise chess player or a wise fighter, whatever it is, you're always calculating what's the downside risk to what I'm about to do. That's like getting to a certain level in life really is not about thinking so much about the upside. Basically, you're looking for asymmetric returns, right? Like any chess player, any fighter, any business person is looking for asymmetric returns. How can I have, a lot of upside with almost zero to no downside, or as little downside to zero downside as humanly possible. And if you can just keep making those bets again and again, then you're going to win. So as I said, trying to start a business where there's a lot of upside, right? Or trying to start a side hustle or a gig or whatever it is, where there's a lot of upside and you're mitigating as much downside as humanly possible. And when it comes to that, don't be romantic about it. Like, just, I don't know, do whatever you want. Like I said, whether you want to get a good sales job and you're making 10, 20, 30K a month, and you're able to put away 60, even 50% of it, and over a few years you manage to build up a pretty good investment portfolio. Whether it's that or you start your own cash flow business, do whatever you want. I don't really care, on that side of things.
But just increase your income.
That's the first place you need to start.
I want to just talk to you before we go as well in regards to like meditation and psychedelics, because it's something that I only experienced psychedelics myself, like in terms of like a mushroom journey. And I'm talking about not the mushroom journey I did was a journey. It wasn't going to Park Life and getting off me tits on 5 grams. It was like a proper journey. But what's your experience? Obviously meditation is something I know that's a staple with you in terms of like how it's changed your life, but how have psychedelics opened your mind?
So when it comes to psychedelics, look, also the thing is I did psychedelics for the first time when I was 15. Like I did LSD for the first time when I was 15.
LSD, I'm talking about mushrooms, but you're going straight on the LSD.
Yeah, I went on LSD. The first few times I did psychedelics, it was LSD, because it was easier to get off the black market, or like easier to get off Silk Road or whatever it's called.
That's where the first use of Bitcoin was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Dude, I was using Bitcoin to buy LSD delivered to, because LSD you can't find it when it's like, you could Royal Mail LSD. It doesn't matter, right? Like there's no smell. It's impossible to find. It's like a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper.
I have no idea. I've never had LSD.
So I did LSD when I was like 15, which I don't recommend for most people, by the way. And then I got into mushrooms. I've done ayahuasca, all that stuff. I think psychedelics make sense when you're lost in life. I haven't done psychedelics in a while because I'm not lost in life. I'm in a phase of my life where I know what I need to do, and it's just about executing. If I get to a phase where I'm like, I really am at a crossroads, I don't know where to go next, then psychedelics make sense.
I love it, man. And thank you so much for your time today, brother. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate having you on the podcast, man.
Thanks.
And guys, do me a solid favor, yeah? If you like this video, which you should like this video, and you got a lot of value out of the man himself that I brought on here, do me a solid favor, yeah? Hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's loads more content on here. Like Iman said, like Davey Fogarty's been on this channel. Lester Javalone has been on this channel. Loads of other e-com entrepreneurs, business people. Got Alan from Grenade that's probably on this channel by now as well. You got Ryan Terry. You got Matt Does Fitness. You got all these people on the, that we're stacking the deck with quality on here, stacking the deck. So do us a solid favor. Let us know what you think in the comments as well. Appreciate you all. Much love.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Frankie Lee podcast.